his control, becoming the master of all places, including the residents of Indra, whom he had driven out, enjoying life in great luxury, and thus became mad, meaning crazy. All the demigods, but Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva came under his control and began serving him. But despite all his material power, he was dissatisfied because he was always puffed up, proud of transgressing the Vedic regulations. In other words, proud of transgressing the Vedic regulations.
Not following in
Right.
instruction.
All the Brahmanas were dissatisfied with him, and they cursed him with determination. Eventually, all the living entities within the universe, represented by the demigods and sages, prayed to the Supreme Lord for relief from Hiranyakashipu's rule. Lord Vishnu informed the demigods that they and the other living entities would be saved from the fearful conditions created by Hiranyakashipu, since Hiranyakashipu was the oppressor of all the demigods, the followers of the Vedas, the cows, the Brahmanas, and the religious, saintly persons, and since he was envious of the Supreme Lord, he would naturally be killed very soon. He can't get away. Hiranyakashipu's last exploit would be to torment his own son Prahlada, who was a Mahabhagavata, an exalted Vaishnava. Then his life would end. When the demigods were thus reassured by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everyone was satisfied, knowing that the miseries inflicted upon them by Hiranyakashipu would come to an end. Okay. Finally, Narada Muni describes the characteristics of Prahlada Maharaj, the son of Hiranyakashipu, and describes how his father envied his own qualified son. In this way, the chapter ends. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 4.
Yes, 1.
I'm sorry, Chapter 1.
No, chapter 4?
No, it's Chapter 4, text number 1.
Yeah.
Shri Narada Uvacha. Narada Muni continues. Lord Brahma was very much satisfied by Hiranyakashipu's austerities, which were difficult to perform. Therefore, when solicited for benedictions, he indeed granted them, although they were rarely to be achieved. Well, that's a big mistake. Text 2. Lord Brahma said, O Hiranyakashipu, these benedictions for which you have asked are difficult to obtain for most men. Nonetheless, O my son, I shall grant you them, although they are generally not available. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Material benedictions are not always exactly worthy of being called benedictions. Interesting. If one possesses more and more, a benediction itself may become a curse. That is interesting. For just as achieving material opulence in this material world requires great strength and endeavor, maintaining it also requires great endeavor. Lord Brahma informed Hiranyakashipu that although he was ready to offer him whatever he had asked, the result of the benedictions would be very difficult for Hiranyakashipu to maintain. Nonetheless, Since Brahma had promised, he wanted to grant all the benedictions asked. The word Durlaban indicates that one should not take benedictions one cannot enjoy peacefully. Text number 3. Then Lord Brahma, who awards infallible benedictions, departed, being worshipped by the best of the demons, Hiranyakashipu, and being praised by great sages and saintly persons. The demon Hiranyakashipu, having thus been blessed by Lord Brahma and having acquired a lustrous golden body, continued to remember the death of his brother and therefore be envious of Lord Vishnu. He can't get that vengeance out of his mind. Purports: a demoniac person, in spite of acquiring all the opulences possible to obtain in this universe, continues to be envious of the supreme personality of Godhead. Text 5 to 7. Hiranyakashipu became the conqueror of the entire universe. Indeed, that great demon conquered all the planets in the three worlds, upper, middle, and lower, including the planets of the human beings, the Gandharvas, the Garudas, the great serpents, the Siddhas, the Charanas, and Vidyadharas, the great saints, Yamaraja, the Manus, the Yakshas, the Rakshasas, the Pisachas, and their masters, and the masters of the ghosts and Bhutas. He defeated the rulers of all the other planets where there are living entities and brought them under his control. Conquering the abodes of all, he seized his power and influence. Wow, it's dangerous being so powerful. Let's see what's going to happen. The word Garuda in this verse indicates that there are planets of great birds like Garuda. Similarly, the word Uraga indicates that there are planets of enormous serpents. Such descriptions of the various planets of the universe may challenge modern scientists who think that all planets but the Earth are vacant. No way, Jose. These scientists claim to have launched excursions to the moon, where they have found no living entities, but only big craters full of dust and snow and stone. Although, in fact, the moon is so brilliant that it acts like the sun in illuminating the entire universe. Of course, it is not possible to convince modern scientists of the Vedic information about the universe. Nonetheless, we are not very much impressed by the words of scientists who say that all other planets are vacant and that only the Earth is full of living entities. Text 8. Hiranyakashipu, who possessed all opulence, began residing in heaven with its famous Nandana garden, which is enjoyed by the demigods. In fact, he resided in the most opulent palace of Indra, the king of heaven. The palace had been directly constructed by the demigod architect Vishwakarma and was beautifully made as if the goddess of fortune of the entire universe resided there. Purport: from this description, it appears that all the heavenly planets of the upper planetary system are thousands upon thousands of times more opulent than the lower planetary systems in which we live. Vishwakarma, the famous heavenly architect, is known as the constructor of many wonderful buildings in the upper planets, where there are not only beautiful buildings, but also many opulent gardens and parks, which are described as Nandana Devodhyana. Nandana Devodhyana. Gardens quite fit to be enjoyed by the demigods. This description of the upper planetary system and its opulences is to be understood from authoritative scriptures like the Vedic literatures. Telescopes and other imperfect instruments of scientists are inadequate to evaluate the upper planetary system. Although such instruments are needed because the vision of the so-called scientists is imperfect, the instruments themselves are also imperfect. Therefore, the upper planets cannot be appraised by imperfect men using imperfect man-made instruments. Direct information received from the Vedic literature, however, is perfect. We therefore cannot accept the statement that there are no opulent residences on planets other than this Earth. Okay, there it is. There are many living entities on all the other planets. Text 9 to 12. The steps of King Indra's residence were made of coral. The floor was bedecked with invaluable emeralds. The walls were of crystal, and the columns of Vaidurya stone. The wonderful canopies were beautifully decorated. The seats were bedecked with rubies, and the silk bedding, as white as foam, was decorated with pearls. The ladies of the palace, who were blessed with beautiful teeth and the most wonderfully beautiful faces, walked here and there in the palace, their ankle bells tinkling melodiously, and saw their own beautiful reflections in the gems. The demigods, however, being very much oppressed, had to bow down and offer obeisances at the feet of Hiranyakashipu, who chastised the demigods very severely and for no reason. Thus, Hiranyakashipu lived in the palace and severely ruled everyone. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Hiranyakashipu was so powerful in the heavenly planets that all the demigods except Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu were forced to engage in his service. Indeed, they were afraid of being severely punished if they disobeyed him. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti has compared Hiranyakashipu to Maharaja Vena, bad, who was also atheistic and scornful of the ritualistic ceremonies mentioned in the Vedas. Yet Maharaja Vena was afraid of some of the great sages such as Bhrigu, whereas Hiranyakashipu ruled in such a way that everyone feared him but Lord Vishnu. Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva uh, fear. Okay, wait a minute. Let me read this. Yet Maharaja Venu was afraid of some of the great sages, such as Bhrigu, whereas Hiranyakashipu ruled in such a way that everyone feared him but Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva. Hiranyakashipu was so alert against being burnt by ashes by the anger of great sages like Brigu that by dint of austerity he suppressed their power and placed even them under his subordination. It appears that even in the higher planetary systems to which people are promoted by pious activity, disturbances are carried by asuras like Hiranyakashipu. No one in the three worlds can live in peace and prosperity without disturbance. You know, text 13. Okay, we're on Canto 7, chapter 4, text 13. My dear king, Hiranyakashipu was always drunk on strong smelling wines and liquors, and therefore his coppery eyes looked like copper. Coppery eyes were always rolling. Nonetheless, because he had powerfully executed great austerities in mystic yoga, although he was abominable, all but the three principal demigods, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu, personally worshipped him to please him by bringing him various presentations with their own hands. Okay, well, that means Hiranyakashipu was a drunkard and a bully. Purport. In the Skanda Purana, there is this description. Upai yanam dadu sarve vina devan hiranyaka. Hiranyakashipu was so powerful that everyone but the three principal demigods, namely Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu, engaged in his service. Madhvacharya says, Aditya Vasavo Rudra Sri Vita Ki Surayata. There are three kinds of demigods, the Adityas, the Vasas, and the Rudras, beneath whom are the other demigods, like the Maruts and Sadyas. Marutas Chaiva Vishve Cha Sadyas Chaiva Cha Tadyata. Therefore, all the demigods are called Tri-Pistapa, and the same word, Tri, applies to Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu. Text number 14. O Maharaj Yudhisthira, descendants of Pandu, my dint of this personal power, by, by dint of this personal power, Hiranyakashi, being situated on the throne of King Indra, controls the inhabitants of all the other planets. The two Gandharvas, Vishvavasu, and Tumburu, I myself, and the Vidyadharas, Apsaras, and the sages all offer prayers to him again and again just to glorify him. Okay. Purport. The asuras sometimes become so powerful that they can engage even Narada Muni and similar devotees in their service. This does not mean that Narada was subordinate to Hiranyakashipu. Sometimes, however, it so happens in this material world that great personalities, even great devotees, can also be controlled by the asuras. Text 15. Being worshipped by sacrifices offered with great gifts by those who strictly followed the principles of Varna and Ashrama. Hiranyakashipu, instead of offering shares of the oblations to the demigods, accepted them himself. That is greedy, very greedy. Text 16. As if in fear of Hiranyakashipu, the planet Earth, which consists of 7 islands, delivered food grains without being plowed. Oh, wow. Delivered food grains without being plowed. Thus, it resembled cows like a sarabi of the spiritual world or the kamadubda of heaven. The earth yielded sufficient food grains. The cows supplied abundant milk, and outer space was beautifully decorated with wonderful phenomena. Okay. Text 17. By the flowing of their waves, the various oceans of the universe, along with their tributaries, the rivers, which are compared to their wives, supplied various kinds of gems and jewels for Hiranyakashipu's use. These oceans were the oceans of salt water, sugarcane juice, wine and clarified butter, milk, yogurt, and sweet water. Purport: the water of the seas and oceans of this planet, of which we have experience, are salty. But other planets within the universe can contain oceans of sugarcane juice, liquor, ghee, milk, and sweet water. The rivers are figuratively described as wives of the oceans and seas because they glide down to the oceans and seas as tributaries, like the wives attached to their honorable modern scientists. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. They glide down to the oceans and seas as tributaries, like the wives attached to their husbands. Modern scientists attempt excursions to other planets, but they have no information of how many different types of oceans and seas there are within the universe. According to their experience, the moon is full of dust. But this does not explain how it gives us soothing rays from a distance of millions of miles. As far as we are concerned, we follow the authority of Vyasadeva and Sukadeva Goswami, who have described the universal situation according to the Vedic literature. These authorities differ from modern scientists who conclude from their imperfect sensual experience that only this planet is inhabited by living beings, whereas the other planets are all vacant or full of dust. Text 18. The valleys between the mountains became fields of pleasure for Hiranyakashipu, by whose influence all the trees and plants produce fruits and flowers profusely in all seasons. The qualities of pouring water, drying and burning, which are all qualities of the three departmental heads of the universe, namely Indra, Vayu, and Agni, were all directed by Hiranyakashipu alone, without assistance from the demigods. How did he get so powerful? It's really amazing. Purport: it is said in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, Tejo Vari Vidam Yata Vinimaya. This material world is conducted by fire, water, and earth, which combine and take shape. Here it is mentioned that the three modes of nature, Pritak Gunam, act under the direction of different demigods. For example, King Indra is in charge of pouring water. The demigod Vayu controls the air and dries up the water, whereas the demigod controlling fire burns everything. Hiranyakashipu, however, by dint of his austere performance of mystic yoga, became so powerful that he alone took charge of everything without assistance from the demigods. Now that's very dangerous. Gives so much power to this demon. Text 19. In spite of achieving the power to control in all directions, and in spite of enjoying all types of dear sense gratification as much as possible, Hiranyakashipu was dissatisfied because instead of controlling his senses, he remained their servant. Yeah, the servant of the senses. That's not a good situation. Purport. This is an example of asuric life. Atheists can advance materially and create an extremely comfortable situation for the senses, but because they are controlled by the senses, that's the point. Because they're controlled by the senses, they cannot be satisfied. This is the effect of modern civilization. Materialists are very much advanced in enjoying money and women. Yet dissatisfaction prevails within human society because human society cannot be happy and peaceful without Krishna consciousness. As far as material sense gratification is concerned, materialists may go on increasing their enjoyment as far as they can imagine. But because people in such a material condition are servants of their senses, they cannot be satisfied. Hiranyakashipu was a vivid example of this dissatisfied state of humanity. Well, I would say that is experienced by everyone in the material world. Text 20. Hiranyakashipu thus passed a long time being very much proud of his opulences and transgressing the laws and regulations mentioned in the authoritative Shastras. He was therefore subjected to a curse by the four Kumaras, who were great Brahmanas. So that's a Brahminical curse, the worst of all. There have been many instances in which demons, after achieving material opulences, have become extremely proud, so much so that they have transgressed the laws and regulations given in the authoritative Shastra. Hiranyakashipu acted in this way, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 16:23. Ya Shastravidim Utsrija Vartate Kamakarata Nasa Siddhim Avapnoti Na Sukham Na Param Gatim. He who discards scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection, neither perfection nor happiness, nor the supreme destination. The word Shastra refers to that which controls our activities. That's interesting. The word Shastra refers to that which controls our activities. We cannot violate or transgress the laws and regulative principles mentioned in the Shastras. Bhagavad Gita repeatedly confirms this. Tasmat Shastram Brahman Anam Te Karya Vyavastito Yatva Shastra Vihan or Vihana Noktam Karma Kartam Viharasi. One should understand what is duty and what is not duty by the regulations of the scriptures. Knowing such rules and regulations, one should act that he may gradually be elevated. Okay. Bhagavad Gita 16:24. One should act according to the direction of the Shastra. But the material energy is so powerful that as soon as one becomes materially opulent, he begins to transgress the Shastric laws. As soon as one transgresses the laws of Shastra, he immediately enters upon the path of destruction. Yeah, the path of self destruction. Text 21. Everyone, including the rulers of the various planets, was extremely distressed because of the severe punishment inflicted upon them by Hiranyakashipu. Fearful and disturbed, unable to find any other shelter, they at last surrendered to the Supreme Personality Godhead, Vishnu. Okay, why did they wait so long? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Uktaram yagitapasam sarvalokam heshwaram Srihidam sarvabhutanam yadvamam santim richate. The sages, knowing me, meaning Krishna, as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attain peace from the pangs of material miseries. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is actually the best friend of everyone. In a condition of distress or misery, one wants to seek shelter of a well-wishing friend. The well-wishing friend of the perfect order is Lord Sri Krishna. Therefore, all the inhabitants of the various planets, being unable to find any other shelter, were obliged to seek shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Friend. If from the very beginning we seek shelter of the Supreme Friend, Krishna, there will be no cause of danger. It is said that if a dog is swimming in the water and one wants to cross the ocean by catching hold of the dog's tail, certainly he is foolish. Similarly, if in distress one seeks shelter of a demigod, he is foolish, for his efforts will be fruitless. In all circumstances, one should seek shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then there will be no danger under any circumstances. Haribol, Haribol. Text 22 and 20. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto that direction where the Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated, where those purified souls in the renounced order of life, the great saintly persons, go, and from which, having gone, they never return, without sleep, fully controlling their minds and living on only their breath. The predominating deities of the various planets began worshiping Rishikesha with this meditation. Okay. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The two words, Tasyai Kasta Aya, Nakasta Ayai, are very significant. Everywhere, in every direction, in every heart, and in every atom, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated in its features as Brahman and Paramatma. Then, what is the purpose of saying Tasai Tasta Aya? Tasai Tasta Ayai. In that direction where Hari is situated. During Hiranyakashipu's time, his influence was everywhere, but he could not force his influence into the places where the Supreme Personality of Godhead had his pastimes. For example, on this earth, there are such places as Vrindavana and Ayodhya, which are called Dhammas. In the Dhamma, there is no influence from Kali Yuga or any demon. If one takes shelter of such a Dhamma, worship of the Lord becomes very easy, and resultant spiritual advancement quickly takes place. In fact, in India, one may still go to Vrindavan and similar places to achieve the results of spiritual activities quickly. Ah, that's interesting. Text 24. Then there appeared before them a transcendental sound vibration emanating from a personality not visible to material eyes. The voice was as grave as the sound of a cloud, and it was very encouraging, driving away all fear. Text 25 and 26. The voice of the Lord vibrated as follows. O best of learned persons, do not fear. I wish all good fortune to you. Become my devotees by hearing and chanting about me and offering me prayers, for these are certainly meant to award benedictions to all living entities. I know all about the activities of Hiranyakashipu and shall surely stop them very soon. Please be patient. Please wait. Please wait patiently until that time. Okay, that's good advice. Now they have the gold promise. Purport. Sometimes people are very much eager to see God. In considering the word Mad Darshanam, seeing me, which is mentioned in this verse, one should note that in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Bhaktya Mam Abhijanati. In other words, the ability to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead or to see him or talk to him depends on one's advancement in devotional service, which is called bhakti. In bhakti, there are 9 different activities. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, Smaranam Padasevanam, Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam. Because all these devotional activities are absolute, there is no fundamental difference between worshiping the deity in the temple and seeing him and chanting his glories. Indeed, all of these are ways of seeing him. For everything done in devotional service is a means of direct contact with the Lord. Oh, now that's a big statement. For everything done in devotional service is a means of direct contact with the Lord. The vibration of the Lord's voice appeared in the presence of all the devotees, and although the person vibrating the sound was unseen to them, they were meeting or seeing the Lord because they were offering prayers and because the vibration of the Lord was present. Contrary to the laws of the material world, there is no difference between seeing the Lord, offering prayers, and hearing the transcendental vibration. Pure devotees, therefore, are fully satisfied by glorifying the Lord. Such glorification is called kirtana. Performing kirtana and hearing the vibration of the sound Hare Krishna is actually seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. One must realize this position, and then one will be able to understand the absolute nature of the Lord's activities. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Text 27. When one is envious of the demigods, who represent the supreme personality of Godhead, of the Vedas, which give all knowledge, of the cows, Brahmanas, Vaishyas, I'm sorry, Vaishnavas, and religious principles, and ultimately of me. Okay. When one is envious of the demigods who represent the supreme personality Godhead, of the Vedas, which give all knowledge, of the cows, Brahmanas, Vaishnavas, and religious principles, and ultimately of me, meaning Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead, he and his civilization will be vanquished without delay. Oh boy, Haribol. That's good news. Sometimes people think, oh, the demons, they get away with everything. No, they're not going to get away with everything. And ultimately, the Supreme Personality God, he and his civilization, in other words, the demoniac civilization, will be vanquished without delay. I mean, I've seen this before where somebody declares that he is God, and very soon some terrible thing happens and that person dies or is completely, like has an accident and is incapacitated. It happens many times. Okay, text number 28. When Hiranyakashipu teases the great devotee Prahlada, his own son, who is peaceful and sober and who has no enemy, I shall kill Hiranyakashipu immediately, despite the benedictions of Brahma. Okay. Of all sinful activities, an offense to a pure devotee or Vaishnava is the most severe. An offense at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava is so disastrous that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has compared it to a mad elephant that enters a garden and causes great havoc by uprooting many plants and trees. If one is an offender at the lotus feet of a Brahmana or Vaishnava, his offenses uproot all his auspicious activities. One should therefore very carefully guard against committing Vaishnava aparada, or offenses at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava. Here the Lord clearly says that although Hiranyakashipu had received benedictions from Lord Brahma, these benedictions would be null and void as soon as he committed an offense at the lotus feet of Prahlad Maharaja, his own son. A Vaishnava like Prahlad Maharaja is described herein as nirvaira, having no enemies. Elsewhere in the Srimad Bhagavatam 3.25.21, it is said, Ajata Satrava Santa Sadava Sadhu Bhushana. A devotee has no enemies. He is peaceful. He abides by the scriptures, and all his characteristics are sublime. A devotee does not create enmity with anyone, but if someone becomes his enemy, that person will be vanquished by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, despite whatever benedictions he may have received from other sources. Hiranyakashipu was certainly enjoying the fruitful results of his austerities. But here the Lord says that as soon as he committed an offense at the lotus feet of Prahlada Maharaj, he would be ruined. One's longevity, opulence, beauty, education, and whatever else one may possess as a result of pious activities cannot protect one if one commits an offense at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava. Despite whatever one possesses, if one offends the lotus feet of a Vaishnava, he will be vanquished. So that means that we should always be very careful not to offend a bona fide Vaishnava. Text 29. The great saint Narada Muni continued, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the spiritual master of everyone, thus reassured all the demigods living in the heavenly planets, they offered their respectful obeisances unto him and returned confident that the demon Hiranyakashipu was now practically dead. Oh boy, he's a dead man walking. Purport: the less intelligent men who are always busy worshiping the demigods should note that when the demigods are harassed by the demons, they approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead for relief. Since the demigods resort to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, why should the worshippers of the demigods not approach the Supreme Lord for whatever benefits they desire? This is real wisdom now. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.10 says, Akama sarvakamova moksha kama udaradi ivrena bhakti yogena yajata purusham param. Whether one desires everything or nothing, or whether he desires to merge into the existence of the Lord, he is intelligent only if he worships Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by rendering transcendental loving service. Yeah, in other words, you don't have to worship anyone else. Just worship Lord Krishna. Whether one is a karmi, jnani, or yogi, if one wants a particular benediction fulfilled, even if it be material, one should approach the Supreme Lord and pray to him, for then it will be fulfilled. There is no need to approach any demigod separately for the fulfillment of any desire. Of course, that's not pure devotional service, but at least there is some connection to the Lord. That's better than worshiping demons and other nonsense people. Text 30. Hiranyakashipu had 4 wonderful, well-qualified sons, of whom the one named Prahlada was the best. Indeed, Prahlada was a reservoir of all transcendental qualities, because he was an unalloyed devotee of the personality of Godhead. Purport: Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavatya kinchana sarvar gunas tatra samasate sura. In one who has unflinching devotional faith in Krishna, all good qualities of Krishna and the demigods are consistently manifest. Srimad Bhagavatam 5.18.12. Prahlada Maharaj is praised herein for having all good qualities because of worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, a pure devotee who has no motives has all good qualities, material and spiritual. If one is spiritually advanced, being a staunch, liberal devotee of the Lord, all good qualities are manifest in his body. On the other hand, Harava kuto mahadguna, if one is not a devotee, even if he has some materially good qualities, they have no value. That is the verdict of the Vedas. Okay. Yeah, this is sometimes this argument is there. Some people say, some people who are not very clearly surrender to Krishna will say, well, so and so has done this good thing and that good thing. And, you can't say that he's a demon. Well, wait a minute. It's just like uh, a person who is a demon but does some charitable work. Does that change the fact that he's a demon? Not really. That charitable work is not beneficial. It's done out of selfish desires or motives. So therefore, we have to be very careful and not be tricked. Just like, uh, sometimes demoniac men will perform sacrifices and give charity and things like that. But the purpose is for their own benefit, not for uh, serving the Lord. Okay, text 31 and 32. The qualities of Maharaj Prahlada, the son of Hiranyakashipu, are described herewith. He was completely cultured as a qualified Brahmana, having very good character and being determined to understand the absolute truth. He had full control of his senses and mind. Like the Supersoul, he was kind to every living entity and was the best friend of everyone. To respectable persons, he acted exactly like a menial servant. To the poor, he was like a father. To his equals, he was attached like a sympathetic brother. And he considered his teachers, spiritual masters, and older God brothers to be as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was completely free from unnatural pride that might have arisen from his good education, riches, beauty, and aristocracy, and so on. Oh boy, that means that he's the best of all sadhus. The purport. These are some of the qualifications of a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava is automatically a Brahmana because a Vaishnava has all good qualities of a Brahmana. Samo Damas tapas socham shantir arjavam evacha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahmakarma swabhavajam. Peaceful self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, wisdom, knowledge, and religiousness. These are the qualities by which the Brahmanas work, Bhagavad Gita 1842. These qualities are manifest in the body of a Vaishnava. Therefore, a perfect Vaishnava is also a perfect Brahmana, as indicated here by the words Brahmanya, Sila, Sampana. A Vaishnava is always determined to understand the absolute truth. And to understand the absolute truth, one needs to have full control over his senses and mind. Prahlada Maharaj possessed all these qualities. A Vaishnava is always a well-wisher to everyone. The six Goswamis, for example, are described in this way. Dhira Dhira Jana Priyo. They were popular with both the gentle and the ruffians. A Vaishnava must be equal to everyone, regardless of one's position. Atmavat, a Vaishnava should be like Paramatma. Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Hridde Se Rijunatistati. Paramatma does not hate anyone. Indeed, he is the heart of a Brahmana. But he is also even in the heart of a pig. The moon never refuses to distribute its pleasing rays, even to the home of a Chandala. A Vaishnava never refuses to act for everyone's welfare. Therefore, a Vaishnava is always obedient to the spiritual master, Arya, The word Arya refers to one who is advanced in knowledge. One who is deficient in knowledge cannot be called Arya. At the present, however, the word Arya is used to refer to those who are godless. This is the unfortunate situation of Kali Yuga. One who is deficient in knowledge cannot be called Arya. At the present moment, however, the word Arya is used to refer to those who are godless. This is the unfortunate situation of Kali Yuga. The word Guru refers to the spiritual master who initiates his disciple into advancement in the science of Krishna or Krishna consciousness, as stated by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Shri Bhagavan Mantropadeshake Gaurav iti artha. Okay, I think we were going to stop. We'll stop here. Okay, well, we'll just read one more verse. Text 33. Although Prahlad Maharaj was born in a family of Asuras, he himself was not an Asura, but a great devotee of Lord Vishnu. Unlike the other Asuras, he was never envious of Vaishnavas. He was not agitated when put into danger, and he was neither directly or indirectly interested in the fruitive activities described in the Vedas. Indeed, he considered everything material to be useless, and therefore he was completely devoid of material desires. He always controlled his senses and life there, and being steady and being of steady intelligence and determination, he subdued all lusty desires. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. From this verse, we discover that a man is not qualified or disqualified simply by birth. Prahlada Maharaj was an Asura by birth, yet he possessed all the qualities of a perfect Brahmana. Brahmanya Sila Sampanna. Anyone can become a fully qualified Brahmana under the direction of a spiritual master. Prahlada Maharaja provided a vivid example of how to think of the spiritual master and accept his directions calmly. Haribol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We'll stop right there. Are there any questions or comments? Any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
In text 23, Maharaj,
23. Okay, wait a minute. I have to go way past. Okay, go ahead.
it said in the
It's
purport,
22 and 23, right?
yes, Maharaj.
Yeah.
For example, on this earth, there are such places as Vrindavan and Ayodhya, which are called dhamas. In the dhama, there is no influence from Kali Yuga or any demon. If one takes shelter of such a dhama, worship of the Lord becomes very easy and result in spiritual advancement quickly takes place. Maharaj, even in Vrindavan and Ayodhya, it says there is no influence from Kali Yuga, but there are still people who are doing wrong things or unregulated things in those dhamas. How should we understand that if it says there's no influence from Kali Yuga in this purport?
Have you seen people who are what? Violating the principles of Dharma and in the holy Dham?
I think there are Muslims also, Maharaj in Ayodhya, and they eat meat. Or even in Vrindavan, if you go to the temples, some of the pujaris And yeah, they could, some of them might make money. You can tell that they're not pure Vaishnavas, at least in behavior.
Okay, so your question is, well, you're questioning the statement in the Dhamma.
Well, I'm
There's
asking
no
how to
influence
understand.
of Kali Yuga or any demon. Is that what
Yeah. Yes, Maharaj. How should I understand this in the current situation?
Mhm. Well, it's not difficult. You can understand that in spite of some, let's say, unworthy people who enter the Dhamma. Why? Because, it's completely open. Anyone can go there. But it does not influence this worship that's going on in the Dhamma. Yeah. So, and that's why it says, in the Dhamma, there is no influence from Kali Yuga or any demon. If one takes shelter of such a Dhamma, worship of the Lord becomes very easy. Well, that's a fact. You go to these holy places and they are performing, almost 24 hours a day worship for the Lord. That hasn't stopped for hundreds of years, thousands of years sometimes. So even though there might be many demons, the devotees are not influenced by that. Right? So if you go today to Vrindavan, what do you see there? Well, you'll see a lot of devotees that are chanting Hare Krishna, and there's festivals going on, and there's people giving classes, and there's prasadam, and there are, let's say, many opportunities of meeting very advanced devotees there.
Mm-hmm.
So, although there are also dogs, there are also maybe monkeys, there are other things there, but that does not stop the regulated devotional service taking place. So that's what we should look for. Like some people say, oh, but then in Vrindavan it's really dirty. They don't really clean that place. That may be true, but it doesn't mean that the deity is dirty. The deity is not dirty at all. It's being worshipped with very strictly in cleanliness. And there are brahmanas that are very clean and regulated. They don't go with dirty clothes to do worship, right? So somebody has to override mundane people who are in the Dhamma and see the bona fide devotees that are in the Dhamma. If there are no bona fide devotees in the Dhamma, then it's no longer a sacred place. But there are many bona fide devotees in the Dhamma. Therefore, it's a sacred place, even though there might be other, just like in the, there are Muslims also in the Dhamma, right? And they're also cooking meat and eating meat. But they're a minority, and the majority of the people are devotees. And even even the Muslims, they have certain respect for the devotees. So anyway, we should not judge things quickly. We should wait and see what is the actual situation. So the actual situation in the Holy Dham is there are so many people chanting Hare Krishna every day. So that means it is definitely a holy place. And that's why it says here that, for example, on this earth, there are such places as Vrindavana and Ayodhya, which are called Dhammas. In the Dhamma, there is no influence from Kali Yuga or any demon. If one takes shelter of such a Dhamma, worship of the Lord becomes very easy, and resultant spiritual advancement quickly takes place. In fact, in India, one may still go to Vrindavana and similar places to achieve the results of spiritual activities quickly. Now, would you challenge that statement? No, because you can go today to the Holy Dham in Vrindavan or Ayodhya. It's very spiritual, you know. You can actually experience the spiritual presence of the Lord and the devotees in those places. If you go to New York City, you won't see many people like that. Yeah, there are devotees there, but they're tremendously outnumbered. But you go to the Dhamma, the holy places like Vrindavan, most of the people there are very dedicated to Krishna. And if you do anything sacrilegious, they get really upset. And that those type of people will be quickly thrown out or punished. Yeah, so that's why it says here, if one takes shelter of such a Dhamma, worship of the Lord becomes very easy, and resultant spiritual advancement quickly takes place. In fact, in India, one may still go to Vrindavana and similar places and achieve the results of spiritual activities quickly. That's a fact. No one can claim that this is not a fact. Okay, so I think we are over time. Are there any questions or comments? All right, no questions, no comments. So we stopped at Canto 7, Chapter 4, text number 20, text number 32. Is that right?
33, Maharaj.
33? Okay, yeah, you're right. Okay, thank you very much, my dear devotees. Please chant Hare Krishna. And don't worry, the Dhamma is not going to be corrupted. There might be corrupt people there, but the Dhamma itself is not going to be corrupted. There will always be genuine devotees there to maintain the principles of Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Shri Krishna Bhagavan. Thank you very much. Hare Bol.